Getting to 100 episodes is a wonderful achievement that everybody can be proud of that's associated with the show. And it's a funny thing about getting to 100, all the rest of it goes away. Whatever the critics had to say, whatever the haters had to say, you just kind of want to look at them and go, it's 100 episodes, man. Check out the scoreboard. It's 100.
100 episodes is kind of unbelievable.
I never really considered that we'd make it to 100 episodes, but now that we're here, it's amazing.
TV series don't last that long, you know? Like, it's really, really rare when they do.
I think the 100th episode is probably as quintessential One Tree Hill as we've been in a very long time.
It brings a lot of the past storylines that we've gone throughout, even over the past couple of years, not just this year. It brings it all together.
This whole season has kind of led up to this moment.
It sort of brings everybody back to Tree Hill.
It's a great episode, it really is.
We're shooting the toughest episode right now. The days are long, we're cooped up in, this big box of a church, and everybody wants to, pull their hair out.
I really wasn't sure we could even get it done in time.
This one's been more of a roller coaster ride than almost any show I can think of.
But nobody cares. It's like, we're family, we're leaving. Who needs sleep? We can sleep next week.
It's a very powerful episode. As usual, a lot of drama, a lot of tears, a lot of laughter, everything that you would normally expect in One Tree Hill, it's there.
Just one of those episodes you really want to sit down and watch. It's big. It's real big.
Action! Well, 100 is an ambitious number, and for television shows, 100 episodes is the magic number. Basically, you get to 100, your show's a hit.
Cut.
To get to 100 episodes is beyond belief. It's like hitting a hole-in-one in golf, once in a lifetime.
It's really surreal, and I've talked to a lot of people about it and a lot of my friends about it, and they constantly remind me that it's such a small percentage of actors that are able to make it on a show to 100 episodes.
When we started the show, I remember in the early days, the ratings weren't so great, and, Mark and Joe, all of our fearless leaders were telling us to, be patient and to have faith, and we did, but, it wouldn't have surprised me if they called up and said, you're done, this is it.
I never thought we'd get to 100, especially after a couple of, tumultuous seasons about being moved from one time period to another and one network to another. So, it was tough.
Back in the beginning, I think the mentality was so one step at a time, just make it to another season, make it to another, second half of the season, or sometimes just make it to another episode.
I've always felt that sports and the background of sports is a great way to tell stories about the human condition. Making 100 episodes is like getting into a sports hall of fame. It's an achievement and an acknowledgement that you played the game the right way.
100 episodes is kind of unbelievable because we've always been this show that either didn't get the press because we weren't supposed to be on the air, or we've always been kind of under the radar because we do shoot our show in Wilmington, North Carolina, so we're not out tramping it up in clubs and all that kind of mess. So for our 100 episodes to be based solely on the merit of the show and the stories we're telling is really flattering, and I'm pretty excited about that.
There were always those days where I thought we were done. There was always those days where I thought, how are we going to continue to go along, but with the fans, with everybody that loves the show, they really pushed us. And there was so much heart and there was so much talent in a group of people that it was going to go on.
Obviously, I wanted the 100th episode to be special, and I knew that it would be our 12th episode of the 5th season, but there was a writer's strike approaching, and so most shows weren't going to get that far before the strike. They were going to get to episode 8 or 9. But if the strike was prolonged, we didn't know if our show would even come back. And my point of view was, how can we go this far? How can we get this close to 100 and not make it? We have to get to episode 12. So not only do we have the creative pressure of writing a great 100th episode, we also have the real life pressure of, is it our last episode? We didn't know. And we also didn't know if we could get it done in time. I wrote the majority of that episode in the library, where Joe Davola was directing his first episode.
He was in the back of the library every night. We shot from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. and he was diligently wearing a headset, listening to the takes, but also typing up the episode, which is pretty amazing.
The process of writing the script for episode 100 was unlike any script I'd written before, and yet it felt kind of right because I wrote it surrounded by the cast and crew that had gotten us to 100. I remember when I came up with the opening scene for episode 100, I spent some time thinking about what that meant. So not only would it be Lucas's voiceover for the episode, but I wanted it to be Lucas's voiceover for the entire journey we had taken to get to 100. And was it about the place you got to, or was it about getting there at all?
But where were you going?
Everywhere. Anywhere. But where we ended up really wasn't the point.
So I had this idea about a car trip, and Lucas has this voiceover, and it's about when he was a boy and he took a trip with his mom and his uncle. We used to have a dynamic of Keith and Karen and Lucas, and now we have the same dynamic, and it's Lucas, Haley, and Jamie. Because just as Keith and Karen were best friends, Lucas and Haley are also best friends, and they have this loving relationship, albeit not a romantic one, but they've always been there for each other, like Keith and Karen were, and they probably always will be. And I thought, we have this little boy, just like when Lucas was a little boy, we now have Jamie. And just as Lucas wouldn't have understood Dan, or Dan's place in everything, Jamie can't understand that Nathan and Haley are going through these very adult problems at the time. What he can understand is something Lucas also understood, and that was the love between his mom and his uncle. They're in the car and they're taking this trip. And it's about the show, but it's also about the journey that we've taken to get to 100. And the trip leads us to Karen, who's coming home. Karen and Lily and Andy. And for me, it really represented what the show had become too, because you've got this sense of family and extended family. And that's what One Tree Hill had also become for everyone who was working on it.
Oh, and who is this?
Me and Karen, James Lucas Scott.
No, you are not James Lucas Scott. James Scott is a baby.
I got bigger.
You got bigger. Oh my God.
And so to open the episode, which was a big episode, I wanted to just examine each significant character and to look into their heart and see what they were wrestling with, what they loved, what was important to them. And I also wanted to be very visual about it and write sort of an opening coda. Nathan and Haley have always had significant moments in the rain. It's one of their signature things. And they were on the rocks emotionally in episode 100. So I thought, what if Nathan came home and he wanted to mend fences and he wanted to apologize and he wanted to get back together with Haley, and it just started to rain while they were still in the house.
As soon as he's coming to a stop, let's cue the water. And then, exactly.
Now, Peyton Sawyer's image was something she did wish for. I was sort of enamored of that image of this relationship that was supposedly destined, and I thought the fans would enjoy seeing it too.
It's a great episode. I'll tell you what. It ties up a lot of things, which is different because a lot of our big episodes just leave you hanging. And this one ties up some things, but then it also leaves you with this new information that you got to find out what's going to happen after that.
Well, the basic storyline of the episode is a culmination of everyone's relationships. What's going to happen.
Lucas definitely has one of the key arcs in episode 100 because he finally is going to make that leap of faith and choose a woman, choose a final woman. And he actually stands up and he says, I do. He makes that choice.
But in actuality, he kind of don't want to do it. Felt like he was forced into it a little bit, but he's kind of like escaping from something, and I think he's trying to actually find himself. But then Skills, he knows that. So, and he knows Peyton. So I'm kind of like an instigator a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Get her to thinking all these crazy little thoughts. When they say, does anybody have any reason that this thing shouldn't go down? Bam, that's you.
Oh. They don't do that at Real Wedding Skills.
It's a big 100 for Peyton Sawyer, and she is sitting in a pew at the love of her life's wedding, and I can't think of anything more horrific. I'm not really sure why she's even there. There's nothing else to do in Tree Hill but this wedding on this day, and so she is front and center, and meanwhile her heart's breaking. It's pretty sad.
is she going to stop the wedding? Is she going to get Lucas? Is she going to get her heart broken? Is it her fault? Is it his fault? Is it too late? Is it not too late?
And I'm sitting here saying to her, it doesn't matter what you see. Lucas and Lindsay have a relationship. Big deal. You guys have something else. So she's great. She's nice. I like her. He wants to propose to her. I'll make her a wedding dress, but I know this wedding isn't going to happen. If you guys are meant to be, you're gonna be. At the end of the day, it's a piece of paper if they do it. But if he loves you the way that I know he loves you, and you love him the way that I know you love him, it'll work out.